Welcome back from that break, viewers. You're still watching The Couch with me, Ama Pratt. Now, today, I'm sitting with royalty. Now, if you see me turning around a little bit more and smiling a little bit more, it's because I'm super excited. I have with me Queen Diamba, if you'd help me out with the rest.
Absolutely. I'm Queen Diamba Kabatusuila, Tsiyoyo Muata. I'm leader and ruler of the Bakwa people in the region of Central Kasai of the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Wow. Wow. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here.
Welcome so much. You look lovely. Let me say that first of all and get that out of the way, and then we can talk about other things. You look, I love everything. Could you please help me out with an explanation of the look? Everything.
Well, the look is basically, you know, I have my regalia. I kind of am business casual African style. And for this interview, I have, of course, my crown. This is my traveling crown, as the other crown, the main one, stays in the Bakwa Hindu because it's the home of the crown. And this one is the one I travel with. And of course, I have also some other regalia where you have beads and also leopard, teeth and some natural skin, animal skin and silver and African, handmade beads. And this is just, and some cowrie shells, of course, as we can notice, there's cowrie shells everywhere because for us Africans, this represents wealth, but also it also has a lot of symbolism to it.
Wow.
And of course, dressed by a Senegalese tailor. His name is Musa, and he's in Deerfield Beach in Florida, and that's how I like to present myself.
You look absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Florida, that will be the United States of America.
Yes.
How come?
Well, I'm often there. I've lived there for about 13 years. So now that I have been called into different function, I travel a lot across the world, and especially in African countries. But I still have a base there because I raised my children in Florida.
Wow. You see, I keep saying wow because I find the concepts of chieftaincy very interesting, and if you pardon me, when I think about chieftaincy and the whole chieftaincy institution and the picture that I have in my mind, it's not you. You are more like the coming to America kind of queen. Can I say that?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, and so it's not you, and so I find you intriguing, and I hope you can understand that. Let's start from the top. How did you become a queen?
Well, in most African countries that I know, queendom or kingdom, it's not always necessarily related to your father being a king or queen or your mother being a queen. However, usually we come from royal homes, meaning we descend from some kind of king or queen, and I'm a descendant of King Tsiyoyo Muata and of Queen Diamba. And I was not really aware at first that I was going to be called for that function eventually one day until about last year. So I lived my life just like a regular person, went through my trials and tribulation, raised my children, and oftentimes we are called to higher tasks when we have experience. So there are cultures and there are maybe events that, have a child become a king or a girl become a queen. However, in my case, it took to have some kind of life experience to grow into wisdom and understanding. So it's when you are ready that eventually the crown will manifest its desire to sit on your head.
I like the phrasing, the crown would manifest its desire to sit on your head.
Yes, because it's a crown that has sat on many heads before you.
Okay.
And that implies that you have to come with a sense of, humility. And you have to also come with a sense that you don't know everything. And you are ready to learn, you are ready to listen, and to see in what way you can be a part of a growth process for your people. And I think this is probably why this crown decided to sit on my head. And I was so particular, and I didn't fit exactly the profile, the imaginary profile, because it's not necessarily true. but it's an imaginary profile because many kings and queens have been delayed into a back role into the process of African growth. Although they are very much present, they are very, very much respected, and they have a lot to say and a lot to do. And we have been relegated sometimes in the back seat. But we are there. We've been there for thousands of years. And we continue to be there.
I would want us to dedicate a whole section of this conversation to chieftaincy as an institution. And I have some pretty strong views when we get there. You find out.
Yes.
But before that, I'm asking how you came to become a queen, because normally, at least around here in my country, somebody would have to die, you know, for us to go back to what you were saying, like the lineage, and say that, oh, it's this person's turn. So normally, in your case, you should know from childhood that I am going to become a queen if eventually somebody dies, because there's normally that lineage.
Yes, I understand, and you know, there is not a general. There is a general narrative, but there is particulars. So I also come from an era after independence. I was born after independence, where lots of Africans kind of wanted to reject the Africanity and thought that maybe progress meant to embrace the West and to embrace the ways of the West. So many of us, and including my own maybe father in a sense, to do well, you know, they went away from the village and they went in Europe and they studied in universities and they learned the way of the West and valorized the way of the West. And unfortunately, also throughout our history, we have been, you know, conditioned to kind of push away some of our very strong heritage. And today we can ask ourselves questions about what was this about, but we have been pushed away to not look to our own traditional ways, to our traditional cultures. We have thought that, oh, they were not so interesting, they don't have much to give, they don't have much to bring us. So we went and followed a path where our children were best off studying in Europe, in those big colleges in England or France or Paris or Brussels in my case. And so there was a whole generation that were kind of like the new generation of African, the modern Africans. So those disconnected a lot with their old ways. But then life goes on, and then we grew up in a society where we learn different ways, and then we start wondering, where is our place? Who are we truly? What is our identity? So then in that process, I started to do a lot of research on myself, my lineage, where I come from, how were my grandparents like, how were my great grandparents like, and the disconnect sometimes causes you to feel unbalanced. Although we live in the West, we may have, you know, I went to college, university, get several degrees, very highly functioning. However, there's always that drum in your heart that calls from home, that sometimes when you are silent, you can hear it. And then you say, but what is that? And this is what I call the call of our ancestors that are calling us to task and say, listen, look at you, you are beautiful, but how are you beautiful in all ways? So spiritually, intellectually, morally, you know, be a decent human being. That is because of your heritage, where you come from. So now you have to know where you come from to really have a sense of who you are and to have a sense of your potency. What can you do to make this place a better place that you find it? Because this is what we are all called for.
I mean, we should all have a purpose to our life.
Absolutely,
isn't it?
absolutely.
I can appreciate exactly what you're saying.
You know?
So, but you see, when the crown called you, and I'm using your words now, how was it? Because you speak about being a normal person, going about life, like, you know, all of us, and then the crown calls you. My first reaction would have been, and forgive me, would have been, absolutely not.
Yes.
You know, that's not for me. I just want to know what your reaction was when the crown called you.
Yeah, well, at first it was quite a surprise, because the first information I've got from my father was that, you know, you are a princess, you know, you have to now, you have to go back home and go for the first time actually to Bakwa because I've never been
to never been.
Never. I'm a Kinshasa girl. I grew up in Kinshasa. I'm a city girl. So I didn't know anything about Kasai besides the fact that I come from there. I'm from the Luba tribe, you know, the big Luba Empire, because that's where it's a big Luba Empire, very, very ancient empire. And then we are different collective of different smaller tribes and kingdoms within the Luba Empire. So I knew about the Luba, I knew about our culture, I knew about our dances, our traditions, and so, but I never was there. But when I was doing my own work, personal work, to reinforce my identity and to really know who I was longing for that connection. And then this is when my father started realizing that, you know, maybe it's the right time to tell her, you know, or okay, so you are a princess, and if you want, you can go home, and then we're going to intronize you as a princess, because you cannot use a title if you didn't undergo some kind of presentation to your people first. That's what intronization really means. So I agreed, and I said yes, I would love to, because at the same time I'm developing myself as a Pan-Africanist. I mean, I hate to say Pan-Africanist. I would like to say just African. And that would be that should encompass this whole concept of us being one family. However, today we still have to use that term to really give a stronger definition of our purpose. So as being a Pan-Africanist, I really wanted to know more about myself and my culture, because when you want to go and tell the world who you are and what you're seeking, what kind of alliances you're seeking, you have to show them who you are. You have to tell them what is it that you're looking for. Present yourself. So if you don't know yourself, how can you go out there and present yourself? So then I went home, and we went. It was an ordeal to go to Bakwa, beautiful, beautiful Kasai region, very lush nature. I was just charmed and overwhelmed by joy and strong emotion to realize that I was driving on the roads that my father once ran onto when he was a little boy. And then he had to leave because school was away. So he left his parents when he was 11 years old. And so I was back where my father was born. I saw all the children that could have looked like my father, and it was just an amazing thing. So when I got to Bakwa, we did have the intronization as princess, my sister and I, because I was also with my sister. But then some circumstances made it that I'm the queen, because when I was born, the name they picked for me, the name that presented itself, because we have a way when we do naming ceremony, the name presents itself to the child, meaning you are born into your name. Those are our traditions. And being born into your name means that the name comes with its purpose. So I was named Diambi after my great-grandmother. And Diambi was a queen, a very revered and very loved queen. And what was interesting is that in the entire descendants of Diambi and Tsiyoyo Muata, the king Tsiyoyo Muata, nobody was named Diambi. I was the only one. So that was already an indicator to what could have been my purpose in this world, because Africans are by nature very spiritual and very connected to the realm of spirituality. So they believe that the energy we are born with is something that we have to listen to. We can actually listen to, and we have that's called the purpose. So your purpose can speak to you. And it can manifest in different ways. Maybe you have a passion for fashion. Maybe you have a passion for art. But I had a passion for my people. I had a love for Africa. I had this relentless, drumming in my heart telling me, this is where you belong, this is where you go. And then this is when the Council of Elders decided, way before I was even there, that the crown had to sit on my head. Yes, we do have I have a king that is there. He's the co-regent king. He's my cousin, and he's the descendant also of King Tsiyoyo Muata, but he's not descending of Diambi. So for balance of power, like it is in Africa all across, it's usually two to balance power. Very rarely, seldom, you have just a king, an almighty, powerful king or queen, and you don't have a balance. You have a balance either by a co-regent, or you have a balance with the Council of Elders, and you have the Council of Women. So we are very, very diversified in the way we use power to lead. So you also do the best you can according to your abilities. So I'm very versed into the West. I'm very versed into living in Europe and America and all this. And now I have to learn more. I grew up in Kinshasa, so I'm very versed in Africa as well. And I'm an amazing dancer of Congolese music, of course.
Of course.
But as that, I had to find out what would be my role then, if this is what I'm good at. So maybe this is what I can bring, as my queendom can be a landmark to say, how do I connect my people to the others, to the rest of the world?
What I want to know from you at this point is how radically your life has changed.
Yes.
You know, because I can imagine that there would be some changes in your at least in your lifestyle.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the changes in your life?
Well, at first I was also in shock, honestly, because I was not really expecting that this was the highest function that I ever could imagine. I never even had a dream that one day I would be a queen, especially when you grew up in the West and you're an African little girl, and all the princesses and prince and queens, they definitely don't look like you.
No.
So it's kind of like it would be a far-fetched fantasy or even madness to even imagine that one day I would turn into a queen. But my lifestyle has changed, because now my main purpose in life, my main drive in life, it's really to see what I can do to advance the cause of my people. And when I say my people, definitely the Bakwa Hindu are my people, but it's not just the Bakwa Hindu. Bakwa Hindu is just one expression of Africa. So I consider myself, as they call me there, great grandmother. So I feel like a great grandmother. And if, as a great grandmother, you want to advance the cause of all that you feel belong to you. So we say in Kasai, Mukalenga wa Bantu, Bantu wa Mukalenga. It's an interconnected relationship between kingdom or queendom and people. One cannot go without the other. One is not superior to the other. So yes, my lifestyle has changed because my drive and now my focus is solely the purpose of that. And of course I have also certain behaviors, and I cannot, do certain things which I didn't do before. I mean, I'm saying that all my words I've now measured and listened to carefully and dissected, and I want to create alliances. So a lot of the time that I can say, oh, you know what, I don't want to do anything, I'm tired, I want to relax, I want to go to the beach or something like that. Well, guess what, there is an appointment here, you may have this opportunity. I take it, I have to go.
To be there.
And I was explaining to some friends, even having to wear a crown for the rest of my life. At first, like a little girl, I guess it seems cool. Everybody, you got a crown on, but it's not meant to be very comfortable, and it's not. And it's not meant to be, because it's just to show and to remind you the weight of your responsibilities.
Please. Hold on to that. At this rate, viewers, I would like to take a quick commercial break, but we are still on the couch, and I'm still here with Queen. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.